everybody, and welcome to this week's installment of Tuesdays on Tidy with the Burton 4-H Center. My name is Paul Coote, and I'm the Center Director here at the 4-H Center. I wanted to take a little bit of time today to talk to you about the living shoreline that you see behind me. Living shorelines combine tough engineering challenges with good, solid ecological science to make a structure that over time is actually capable of growing and maybe even moving a little bit as conditions here on Horsepen Creek change. To kind of set the scene for this construction project that led to this living shoreline, we'll need to go inside. I've got some pictures of conditions before the living shoreline was built and then as the living shoreline was built. I want to show you all that for a little bit, and then we'll come back outside here and see what else we can find. We needed to control some erosion that was happening across the back of our property. In this picture, you can see the heavy equipment that was brought in by the contractor. They used that big old tractor with the long arm to grade out the slope of the embankment so it wasn't quite so sharp. Once that embankment was sloped out properly, they put down this black fabric that you see along with this heavyweight, what we call it a geogrid, basically an overgrown onion bag on top of that fabric. We used the big tractor to place riprap at the bottom of our living shoreline like you see there. And then we filled bags full of oysters. How do you make oyster bags? Well, that is a good question. For starters, you will go out and you buy 6 18-wheelers worth of oyster shells, and you then host a whole bunch of volunteer work days. We use those long PVC pipes with the oyster bag on the outside of that pipe. Volunteers worked to fill those pipes with the oysters, and then you pull the pipe out of the bag, leaving a bag full of oysters. And that's how we got all of our oyster bags to put into our living shoreline. Here's that picture again. Knots on both ends, lots and lots of oyster bags, lots and lots of oyster shells, lots of volunteer time. And then we place those oyster bags on our living shoreline. As you can see here, we had 2 layers of that real heavy geogrid fabric. Put down the filter fabric, a layer of the geogrid, laid down a layer of oyster bags, and then folded the geogrid over top of the oyster bags. On this picture you can see how we've sewn the 2 seams of the geogrid fabric together with that orange or yellow string, basically heavy fishing line. And then we buried dead men across the top of the embankment to kind of weight the whole thing down. Here you can see the project coming along nicely, almost finished. We've put a top layer of oyster bags, begun the top layer of oyster bags, had to do the entire embankment. There's another close-up with that geogrid on top, and then that yellow stitching to hold it all together. And then this. Here are a couple of pictures shortly after the project was completed. This is summer of 2016. And here's what the living shoreline looks like today in April of 2020. So about 4 years worth of collected sediments and plant growth and oysters colonizing the shoreline. Thanks for spending some time with me today to learn a little bit about how the living shoreline was constructed. Please join me next week to learn a little bit about oysters and the other animals that call the living shoreline their home. Till then, bye-bye.